Welcome to another Mr. Thomas Recaps video from Podpast. Today we'll be recapping what you need to know about Elizabethan education. We're going to be looking at the attitudes to education, the school system and the impact it had on education during the period. So buckle up, get your pen in hand and let's explore. Firstly, you need to know that there was no national system of education. Very few people actually went to school. Those who did consisted mainly of boys. The main purpose of education was to prepare you for your role in life. This was to ensure that the social hierarchy was maintained. It focused on practical skills and there was some focus on literacy. Literacy was a difficult one as literacy rates were very low, only around 15 to 20% of the population could read. However, despite this, attitudes towards education began to change. With the change in religion to Protestantism, it focused on getting people to be able to read the Bible. So as literacy rates were low and religion said they should read, this meant that the number of people learning to read went up. Another development in education was the printing press. This had been invented in the 1400s and by Elizabeth's time books had become cheaper and far more accessible. This improved literacy rates in England. A final way in which attitudes changed towards education was because people need to be able to read and write to record deals made in trading. England was becoming more prosperous and as such people needed to be able to record the transactions. This boosted the literacy rate. Secondly, you need to know about the school system in place in Elizabethan England. If you were a member of the nobility, you could have your education at home with a private tutor. They could study a variety of subjects including history, obviously the most important one, philosophy, Greek, Latin and government. For boys there was also archery, horseback riding and fencing. For girls they could explore music, needlework and dancing. In order to finish their education they would complete their studies in the household of another noble family. If you weren't of the nobility, you would attend school instead. There were 4 different types of school available. There were grammar schools. These were for boys aged 10 to 14 and they represented the greatest change in education in England. They were independent of church control and charged fees to attend them. Students of grammar schools included children of gentry, merchants, farmers and craftsmen. For those boys aged 10 or aged up to 10, there were petty schools, which were schools run privately from people's homes. They were attended by the same children as those who would go on to grammar schools. For girls, but not those from the poorer classes, they could attend dame schools. They were run by locally educated women and had a focus on learning how to read and write. Their studies were focused on the home. Alternatively, children could attend the parish schools. These were run by the church. They taught literacy to the children of yeomen, farmers and craftsmen. After school, students could progress to university. This was for boys only. Oxford and Cambridge were the universities available and the highest qualification was the doctorate in medicine, law or divinity. The universities were made up of different colleges and in 1571 Elizabeth created Jesus College at Oxford. Elizabeth wanted more colleges to educate more Protestant clergymen to increase the number of well-educated Protestants. When looking at education, it's important to assess the impact that education had on those in England. Literacy of men increased from 20% to 30% during the reign. Literacy of women remained at 10%. Those who were poor could not afford to send children to school or required them to work. Women were still expected to marry and not work outside the home. Boys were expected to find paid work. So there we have it. Attitudes to education changed, religion led the way, the wealthy got education but really only if you were a boy. Literacy rates didn't improve for women and Oxford and Cambridge were still fighting between each other. Join us again for a Mr. Thomas Recaps video from Podpast. If you've liked this video then be sure to like and subscribe to spread the history far and wide. Don't forget to sign up to the podcast and join in the conversation on Twitter. Until next time, my loyal compatriots, this was a little bit of history.